Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of Friday, October 17th. Well, happy Friday, everybody. We made it through another week, and we do have lots of stuff to talk about. It's been busy here this morning, so hopefully we can knock this out. The Root River report is really our only source right now to monitor what's going on over on the East Coast as far as the salmon run goes. It looks like the numbers are continuing to go up, but it looks like the ratio is still down as far as kings versus cohos. Maybe it's a little bit better, but it looks like about half cohos or half kings to cohos over there right now. The water's super, super low still, and the good news is they're supposed to get some water over to Milwaukee, I think tomorrow and the next day, so hopefully that pushes some fish up, and then we'll be rocking and rolling over there, and I'll try to keep you posted as to what I know. Speaking of the DNR, Matt Kashalik, our local DNR warden, wanted to remind folks about the ATV and snowmobile classes they have available. They do start tomorrow, but you can still get online here. Go on the DNR website, punch in safety education classes, and this page should come up. Hit enroll. It'll take you to this page. You can pick your topic and your county, and they'll list the courses that are available, and you can get enrolled that way. So check that out. It's a great resource. Speaking of great resources, Dane County Land and Water Resource Department, I was speaking with Dave Rowe, who's the lake manager for them, just the other day, and just kind of picking his brain about what their fall plans are. He told me that they're going to start pulling navigation buoys next week, and then the following week the park staff will begin pulling boat ramp piers. So now these aren't city piers, these are just the county piers, so like your county parks, stuff like that. They're going to start pulling those piers. The city is on a different schedule than they are, and I'll try to keep you posted as I learn more with them. He did want to let folks know that they are going to start drawing the lakes down on November 1st like they do every year, and they are done harvesting their plants, so no more weed cutters out there harvesting things. But Dave also wanted to let me, or told me to let you folks know, the Dane County Land and Water Resources Department has a newsletter section, and you can go on their website here on the Dane County website. Just look up, Land and Water Resources newsletters or something, and you can sign up for any one of these. Here's lake management, and they send them out a couple times a year, and you can stay apprised on those things yourself. Let's see, shop news. We had Noah Humfeld in last night. We did that deer class I mentioned last week. It was great. Noah does a great job. He's a very talented butcher, and of course a great teacher, as many of you know from watching his classes and many videos that we post. So he did a great job showing people how to break down a deer. We had a great turnout for it, and we'll be looking forward to doing that next year. We have salmon stuff. I was talking about salmon. Get in here. We got hard beads, soft beads, floats, all kinds of stuff, flies, any kind of fly you're going to need. And where's my musky suckers? I forgot to talk about those. I do have musky suckers, so I just got a fresh shipment in a little earlier this morning, so we're good to go there. Posters on the front wall include this event, Jam for Cans. It's at the Cottage Grove VFW. It's just like a concert with a bunch of, I think, mostly country bands. And you can show up and donate, bring some canned goods, and it goes to benefit food shelters. There's a trunk or treat thing up here at the church on October 26th. And then we also have this one. You can't see because it's turned around to the inside of the window, but these are tickets for the free Thanksgiving meal that they do up there on Thanksgiving Day. So a great group of folks up there at the church. And if you have anything you want to have me promote, I'm happy to try and do that as well. We can get into the report. So summer just keeps hanging on here. We had a cool week with highs in the 50s and 60s, but it's going to be upper 70s today. Tomorrow, 70s. Things do dip back down into next week, but it looks like next weekend they're forecasting 60s, upper 60s a couple days. So it's just hanging on there, but I just encourage you to get out and enjoy the weather while it lasts. It won't be long before we're complaining about the cold. The Mendota buoy, let's see where she's at right now. 62.8 degrees, which is basically 3 degrees less than we were last week. So the water is continuing to head in the right direction. As far as water quality goes across the chain, I hear it's greatly improved, and I hear that Mendota is very clear right now. I was talking to Noah last night. He was saying that Monona has about 4 feet of visibility, while Beast is about 2 or 3. He hadn't been down on Kegonsa, but I imagine that's like less than Wapisa, but it's not gross, and all that algae is working its way out of the system. So we got some very clear water ahead. Generally speaking, as far as fishing goes, while we're slowly cooling down, the water temperatures are still a little warm for this time of year. But I'm starting to see signs of fish transitioning to more of a fall pattern. With the shorter days, weeds do continue to die back, but I hear they're still in good shape out there across the chain. As those weeds do die back, though, more and more that tends to concentrate fish in whatever weeds remain. So as we move into fall, you can kind of if you can find weeds, you'll likely find fish. Weeds are pretty thick in many shallow areas around town, so shore fishing for panfish can be a challenge. If you can find pockets in the weeds, though, or places where the weed cutters have been through, you can still find fish. If you're in a boat, though, fishing the outside weed edges will be good for most species of fish, especially bluegills. Bluegills are still on mid-lake humps in good numbers as well. I haven't heard about any suspended gills being caught lately, but as is typical for this time of year, those fish move in shallow to the shallow weeds as they're looking for cover there. For any gills you fish, spikes or waxworms on an ice jig or redworms on a little bit bigger jig all work well. You might run into some crappies on a weed edge. If you're targeting crappies, crappie minnows or small minnow-shaped plastics on a jig under a bobber is a pretty safe bet. The perch front continues to be pretty quiet out there. I do hear about fish being picked up here and there, but it's really nothing impressive and certainly not consistent. Weed lines tend to be your best bet. They'll be mixed in with bluegills and maybe some crappies in there too. And redworms are working good for them. Largemouth bass anglers are doing well up shallow with any number of presentations, but again, with the shallow weeds still being pretty thick, weedless plastics, topwater frogs are going to be your best bet there. On the game fish side of things, like I mentioned last week, we're definitely starting to see a transition towards minnows, so large fatheads and especially our blacktail chubs are working well for smallmouth and walleye. Smallmouth are still being found up shallow early and late, but they tend to still be hanging out a little bit deeper, 10 to 15 feet of water in rocky areas during the middle of the day. There again, any number of slower presentations will work, but drop shotting, slip bobbering, or jigging a fathead minnow or like half a crawler or the blacktail chubs are great. Walleye bite around town continues to get better. Fishing from shore has been tough all summer, but I'm hearing about a few fish being picked up from shore at night. So if you can, and that's if you can keep away from the floating weeds that tend to be blowing in there as they die and float away. If you're in a boat, though, work weed lines on rocky shoreline breaks near shallow flats during the day and move up on those shallow flats during low light periods. Otherwise, working weed edges or right in the weeds, especially when it's sunny on mid-lake humps, has also been very productive. The walleyes are definitely hanging out there with the big gills. It sounds like folks trolling crawler harnesses for walleyes are still getting fish, but the floating weeds are starting to cause some headaches. Or I guess I should say they have been causing headaches. No matter where you fish on the live bait side of things for walleyes, crawlers are still working, but like I said, definitely a shift towards minnow is happening. If it's pike you're after, they'll grab just about any lure you throw at them, but at our large shiners or pike suckers are a pretty safe bet. And weed lines are your best place to start looking for those fish. Muskie action is improving. Noah was saying he's been putting some nice fish. He was showing me some pics, some real nice fish in the boat lately for clients. That action will only get better as water temps continue to come down. And like I said, we do have muskie suckers in stock. As for trout, it's a sad day on Wednesday. The inland trout season closed, which is, of course, a bummer. But we do have the salmon run to look forward to, and then the browns and steelhead come up behind them. And before you know it, it's going to be the first Saturday in January when the season opens back up. So swing in and get some tying stuff, sit down. Winter's a great time to stock your box back up and get it. You can at least think about trout that way. A little bit of detail here. Going through the chain, Cherokee still very weedy up there. It's not so bad with weeds on the top of the water, but they are submerged still, quite a bit of weeds up there. And I heard about a bunch of floating weeds, so even topwater stuff can be a little bit difficult fishing. But if you move on down to the 113 bridge, they're getting a nice mixed bag of fish down there, as is usual this time of year. Lots of good bluegills, some crappies and perch mixed in. You might find bass or walleye or pike. And of course, every now and then I hear about a catfish. But for the most part, the catfish have moved out into Lake Mendota. They're just cruising around. Crawlers and stinkbait are still working for folks. But cut bait is definitely something that folks are starting to shift towards. And as far as other fish go out in Mendota, reports I hear, like I said, Mendota's very clear right now. Weed lines will get you a nice mixed bag of fish, especially bluegills, but I am hearing about good numbers and size of gills on mid-lake humps, so we're talking about places like Dunn's Bar, Brearley Bar, Second Point, Commodore Bar, stuff like that. If you can find weeds out there, those gills are going to be hanging out until the weeds are gone. But you might run into a crappie here and there on a weed line. I don't hear about many. The perch bite remains slow. Folks do run into a fish here and there on weed edges, but also out to as deep as I've heard 20 feet of water. So you got to look for them. They've been tough for a couple of years now. Largemouth bass are up shallow in the weeds, and look to rocky shoreline areas, Maple Bluff, Governor's Island, Picnic Point, and stuff if you're looking for smallies. And like I said in the intro, the walleye bite continues to improve. I'm starting to hear about shore anglers picking up a few fish here and there, mostly at like your breakwalls, Warner and Tenney and stuff like that, University shoreline. And as the water cools down, they're just going to keep moving on in there. So the night bite down there gets better and better. Mid-lake humps also, though, same places as the bluegills have been producing a lot of walleyes. Pike are pretty much everywhere. I'd focus on weed edges for them. And the Tenney breakwall over here, nice mixed bag of fish all the time. And again, below the dam here, you never know what you'll find down there. The locals that fish down there all the time, the bluegills have been spotty for them. But, up and down the river, you'll start to get some walleyes moving in here as we get into fall. And you could find a bass or pike or even a muskie cruising around in there. Then, of course, down here on Lake Monona, where the Yahara River flows out, can be a great spot for walleyes and a variety of fish, really. You never know what you might find down there. Otherwise, on Lake Monona, we've got, bluegills still star of the show, hanging out on weed edges pretty much all around the lake. You find weeds, you can find some bluegills, but also, Rock Bar over here, Mid-Lake Bar, Medical Bar, places like that, all got bluegills on. The bluegill bite over here on the Monona Terrace wall, it sounds like has been very slow to dead now, but that happens every time this time of year. I believe that those fish are starting to move into Monona Bay, or just finding some shallow weeds and kind of concentrating there. But the crappie bite over there, close to dark, remains good, and they are starting to pick up a few walleyes here and there. So that's also a very exciting time to be fishing Lake Monona. Also, along John Nolan Drive here can be some great casting for walleyes in the fall. I've heard a bit about the bite increasing over here on Monona Bay, so a few more bluegills in there, even a couple crappies in the triangles over here. So that bite will also only improve as we get closer and closer to ice up. Lake Wingra, same as always, a lot of weeds over there, a bunch of tiny bluegills, some nice bass, and the weeds are starting to come down. The muskies are in there too, but I would assume it's probably still a little weedy to be fishing for muskies. Otherwise, back out on Lake Monona, I haven't really heard much in the way of walleyes yet, but that's all about to change as things cool down. Otherwise, good panfish action in bays like Turville Bay, Weechawak Bay, and stuff like that. But if you can find weeds, and especially a weed edge, you're going to find fish. Moving down the chain here to Upper Mud, the dredge hole, there's panfish over there, mostly on the weed edge. You might find some suspended, maybe some crappies suspended out over the deeper water at the dredge hole. Otherwise, like I was saying, with the weeds dying back in the shallow flats around here, a lot of largemouth bass in there. As those weeds start to die back, that just concentrates those bass even more and more. So you can get some really fantastic fall fishing over there for bass. Kind of the same thing, and the whole north end of Lake Wabisa here is pretty weedy. But those weeds are going to start dying back. But good panfish action down here. A lot of bluegills, same thing on weed edges. I heard about some crappies and even a few perch down here on kind of the southeast end of the lake. Haven't heard much in the way of muskies. A little bit of walleye action down here too on the southeast end, Babcock down to Bible Camp and beyond. Some of those steeper breaks out there. But yeah, haven't heard much in the way of muskies personally, but they're definitely out there. Down on Kegonsa. And like I said, the visibility on Wabisa is a little green yet, but like Noah was saying, it's like 2-3 feet is looking good down there. Kegonsa might be a little bit greener, but definitely still fishable. I haven't really heard many reports other than bluegills on weed lines. White bass are still being found if you can find gulls, as in seagulls, diving on fish. There's probably white bass underneath them, schooling up minnows for them. Otherwise, I haven't personally heard much in the way of walleye reports, but usually down here off the state park, Williams Point area can be real good. Other stuff going on in the area. Haven't heard much off Indian Ford, Kashkanang. I haven't really talked to anybody, but the internet tells me that they're getting some white bass and walleyes trolling out there. Heard about a decent bite in Fort Atkinson for some crappies in the Fort Atkinson area, I guess is all I know. Jefferson Dam, still some decent catfish action up there. And, a nice mixed bag of fish like you'd find at any dam. Beaver Dam Lake, I'm sure there's still catfish, although I haven't really talked to anybody in a couple of weeks about that. Devil's Lake, like I mentioned last week, Grant, who owns Jig Lab Lure Company, was over there. He's got some great action for some trout suspended down like 10-15 feet, just drifting around out in the lake. And those fish will start to move in shallow as they look for their spawning areas, and you can just see them cruising right from shore and catch them. Otherwise, down in the river's running really low. So when it's this time of year, You're going to want to look, as always, I've been saying this all summer, it feels like, but outside bends, pylons below bridges, areas below sandbars, anywhere you can find even just a little bit deeper water, you're probably going to find fish. For smallmouth bass, look for them chasing around large schools of shad. Just toss in anything bright, shiny, really, but especially if it looks minnow-ish, and you're likely going to get struck. Otherwise, dams up and down the river, always a nice mixed bag of fish to be found there. Lake Wisconsin's been slow from the folks I've talked to. I don't talk to everybody that fishes there, but the folks I've talked to sounds like it's been pretty slow for walleye and sauger. Then you got bass. I guess I did hear about some decent bass coming along the shorelines. Panfish have even been a little slow over there, but I'm sure that's all going to change as things cool down here. Otherwise, same thing at the Dells Dam, Castle Rock, Petenwell dams. They're all great, mixed bag spots. Haven't heard much off the Mississippi River. I follow the Clemens folks that run the barge over there, and it looks like they're getting some nice walleyes. And over on the East Coast, yeah, that's kind of the big news. That's what's always happening this time of year is the salmon run. So right now, from what I hear, there aren't a lot of fish up in the rivers like the Milwaukee River or the Root River itself. Sounds like there's still a lot of fish kind of stacked up in this slower, deeper water down here, and they're just waiting for some rain. And the good news is we got some rain in the forecast coming this weekend, so hopefully that'll push a bunch of fish up. I know I'm going to try to get over there and fish with my boys, and I'll report back and let you know what's going on. But yeah, and as soon as the salmon move up, the steelhead and brown trout follow behind them, and then those fish hang out basically all winter. So it's great fun getting over there if you're super bummed about not being able to trout fish. But like I said in the intro, I don't have any picks. We got our salmon flies in stock and stuff. We do have an extensive fly tying department. Winter is a great time to tie flies, so swing on in here. We're also working on doing like a beginning fly tying class, so stay tuned for more information about that. Otherwise, that pretty much does it for the report. I do want to thank you for tuning in. Call the shop here at 241-4225 if you want us to expand on anything. Otherwise, post your comments and catch us below. We love to see that. And I do wish you luck out there. Do get out and enjoy the last bit of nice weather we've got here. We'll be complaining about the cold before you know it. But take care. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Good luck.